All right, today we are diving into one of the most famous and frankly mind-bending arguments in all of philosophy. We're talking about René Descartes and his attempt to prove that God exists, starting with absolutely nothing but his own thoughts. Yeah, it's a wild ride. So, let's get into it.
Now, to really get what Descartes was trying to do, you've got to put yourself in his shoes. I mean, really think about this question. Imagine you've doubted everything. The world around you, your own body, even your senses. How in the world do you get back to reality from there? This isn't just a fun thought experiment. For Descartes, this was an incredibly high-stakes problem he absolutely had to solve. Okay, so our journey really kicks off right where Descartes' second meditation ends. After all his radical doubting, he's managed to prove just one single thing for certain.
And this, of course, is his famous bedrock of certainty. He knows he exists because he's thinking. But that's it. That's all he's got. He can't trust his senses. He can't be sure the physical world is real. He's basically just a mind, floating in this massive void of doubt. And this, as you can imagine, leads to a pretty terrifying philosophical problem. This is the intellectual locked room that Descartes finds himself stuck in. It's a concept called solipsism. I mean, for all he knows, he is the only thing that truly exists, and everything else, you, me, the entire universe, is just a figment of his imagination. To escape this mental prison, he needs a key, and he believes he can find that key not by looking outside, but by looking within his own mind.
So, since he can't trust the external world, Descartes decides to do the only thing he really can do. He's going to take a super careful inventory of the contents of his own mind. The only tools he has to work with are his ideas. That's it. So he starts sorting his thoughts into three main buckets. First, you've got innate ideas. These are the ones that just seem to be built right into our minds from the get-go. Then there are adventitious ideas which, well, they feel like they're coming from the outside world, right? Like the feeling of warmth from the sun. And finally, you have factitious ideas. These are the ones we just cook up ourselves by mashing other thoughts together, like imagining a griffin or a fairy giraffe. Now, as he's sifting through this whole mental inventory, one particular idea just jumps out at him. It seems completely different from all the rest.
Yeah, among all these thoughts about shapes, numbers, and yes, those fairy giraffes, Descartes finds this one idea that it doesn't seem to fit. It's the idea of God.
And it is absolutely crucial to understand just how specific Descartes is being here. He's not talking about some vague, fuzzy spiritual feeling. No, he's working with a very clear, very distinct idea. A being that is absolutely infinite and perfect in every single way.
And right there, that's the core of his puzzle. He looks at himself, and what does he see? A being that's finite, flawed, limited. So, how on earth could a limited mind like his possibly invent the idea of something truly, positively, infinite? It just doesn't add up. He feels like there's no way he could have invented it. It obviously didn't come from his senses, so where in the world did it come from?
Well, to solve this riddle, Descartes pulls out a really powerful logical principle. It's one he believes is totally self-evident, something taught to us by what he called the natural light of our own reason.
This principle right here, this is the key that unlocks his entire argument. To put it simply, you can't get something from nothing. The cause of a thing must have at least as much reality, or you could think of it as power and perfection, as the effect it produces. A lukewarm stone can't cause a raging inferno. The cause has to be up to the job.
So check this out. This is where the problem becomes crystal clear when he applies that principle. Let's take the idea of himself, a finite thinking thing. Could he have caused that idea? Sure, he's a finite thinking thing. The cause and effect, they match up. No problem. But what about the idea of God, an infinite, perfect being? Well, that's the effect, so what could possibly be the cause? It can't be him. He's finite, he's imperfect. There just isn't enough reality in him, so to speak, to produce an idea that grand.
So the crucial takeaway here is this. He is logically ruled out as the source of this idea. He's just not powerful enough, not real enough, to have cooked up the concept of true, positive infinity all by himself.
And there it is, the big conclusion. Descartes reasons that the only possible explanation, the only cause with enough reality to create the idea of an infinite being, has to be an actual infinite being. God must exist because his existence is the only logical explanation for how the idea of him got into Descartes' mind in the first place.
But listen, this isn't just some abstract little thought puzzle for Descartes. Oh no, far from it.
Proving that God exists is his one and only ticket out of that lonely, solipsistic prison. It's the absolute foundation he needs to rebuild all of human knowledge from the ground up.
And here's the revolutionary payoff, the whole point of the exercise. For Descartes, the idea of God is an idea of a perfect being, and perfection, by its very definition, means having no flaws. Well, deception, he argues, is a flaw. It's a defect. So a perfect God cannot possibly be a malicious deceiver, right? One who just tricks us into seeing a world that isn't really there. And if God isn't a deceiver, then the tools God gave us, like our ability to reason clearly and distinctly, well, they have to be fundamentally trustworthy. And just like that, boom, the entire foundation for science, for math, for our very perception of reality is suddenly secure. In a way, he needed God to save science itself.
Of course, an argument this big, this ambitious, it was bound to get some pushback. And for centuries now, other philosophers have been poking holes in this very elegant proof, raising some really challenging questions that get right to the heart of his logic.
And here's probably one of the biggest critiques. Do we really have a positive, perfect idea of infinity? Or do we just understand it in a negative way? Simply as not finite, the absence of limits. Think about it like this. Is our idea of infinite like having a perfect, detailed blueprint of an infinitely huge building? Or is it more like just knowing that the building isn't finite, that it just kind of keeps on going? See, if our idea is just that vague, not finite thing, then you don't need a supremely powerful cause for it. A finite mind like ours could totally come up with that.
And all this leaves us with a really fascinating final thought to chew on. Descartes went on this incredible intellectual journey to find a guarantee, a sort of divine warranty for human reason. But today, most of us, we just trust our reason, right? We do it without needing that divine backup. So, what's our foundation? What gives us the confidence to believe that our minds actually connect with reality at all? It's a huge question, and it's one that Descartes, even centuries later, still forces us to ask ourselves.